Hello and welcome. I'm Saeed from StoryPlanet.net. Dive right into the essence of the most captivating books without reading them cover to cover. Whether you're on the go, at the gym, or just relaxing at home, we offer you a unique and enriching listening experience. Today, we are exploring the book, Locking Up Our Own, a creation by James Forman Jr. Locking Up Our Own, 2017, discusses the U.S. efforts against drugs in Washington, D.C. and how they affected Black Americans. The book examines key drug and gun laws from the 1970s to the late 1990s, which influenced policing strategies and the focus on crime in Black neighborhoods. Before we delve into these revelations, it's interesting to note that James Forman Jr. is a writer, a law professor at Yale Law School, and a founder of the Maya Angelou Public Charter School in Washington, D.C. He has contributed to the New York Times, The Atlantic, and various legal journals. With 6 key ideas to unveil, brace yourself for a deep dive into this captivating book. On StoryPlanet.net. To start, summary. The text discusses the marginalization of Black people during the 1970s, 1990s. The Black Lives Matter movement originated in 2013 on social media due to the acquittal of George Zimmerman for killing Trayvon Martin. It highlights ongoing issues of police brutality against Black Americans. The movement addresses racial inequality in the justice system, tracing back to the 1970s, examining judicial decisions impacting the Black community in Washington, D.C., including gun and drug laws leading to the disproportionate incarceration of Black men. By studying past actions, the goal is to rectify disparities in criminalization between white and Black individuals. Key topics include the history of Black police officers in Washington, Operation Ceasefire, and the impact of systemic issues on the Black community. Key idea number 1, Washington, D.C.'s Black community played a crucial role in preventing a proposal to relax marijuana laws. In 1975, Washington, D.C., with a Black mayor and council, faced debate over softening marijuana penalties. 80% arrested were Black. A proposal to reduce penalties was opposed by Black community leaders, fearing increased crime and addiction based on past heroin epidemic concerns. The legislation was ultimately tabled. Key idea number 2, gun control laws enacted in 1975 had varying impacts. In 1975, as gun violence rose in Washington, City Council debated tougher gun control measures. Councilman Wilson proposed banning shotguns and handguns, raising penalties for gun crimes. Fellow Councilman Moore argued against, stating guns were crucial for self-defense in Black community. Stricter gun laws were passed in 1976, with support from Black citizens concerned about street crime. The laws aimed to protect Black lives, but were criticized for disproportionately affecting Black men and not addressing root causes of gun violence like racial inequality in healthcare and education. Key idea number 3. Increasing the number of Black police officers did not reduce police violence against Black individuals. Racism has historically hindered Black people from advancing within police departments in the U.S. Efforts were made to increase the number of Black officers, but discrimination persisted, affecting promotions and career tracks. 2 Black officers, Jefferson and O'Brien, formed a class to help Black officers improve their test scores for promotions in 1958. However, despite these advancements, more Black officers did not necessarily lead to a decrease in police violence. A study in 1966 showed that while Black officers were less prejudiced than white officers, some still harbored biases, influenced by perceptions of class divisions within Black communities. This sometimes resulted in the use of excessive force for minor offenses. Key idea number 4. D.C. has witnessed significant changes in sentencing for drug crimes. In the late 1930s, Washington imposed strict minimum sentences for drug crimes, growing rampant by the 1970s. In 1981, new drug legislation categorized drugs with specific penalties, proposed by David Clark. African-American council member John Ray pushed for harsher sentences that were partially accepted. Initiative 9 in 1982 established mandatory minimum sentences for drug dealing, supported by Ray and Police Chief Jefferson, but opposed by civil liberty groups. Despite concerns, Initiative 9 passed in September 1982, leading to a significant increase in drug-related prosecutions, yet it had no impact on reducing crime. Key idea number 5. The crack epidemic in the late 1980s led to the implementation of aggressive policing tactics known as warrior policing. In the late 1980s, the war on drugs led to aggressive warrior policing strategies, treating young people in high-crime neighborhoods as potential enemies. This approach contradicted the principle of innocent until proven guilty. Warrior policing emerged due to the crack cocaine epidemic, with its immediate and intense high causing addiction. The black community was significantly impacted by crack, leading to support for intensive law enforcement. Drug-related violence increased, with heightened fear and disproportionate impact on black individuals. Key idea number 6. Stop and search. Tactic disproportionately targeted black communities. In 1995 in Washington, D.C., despite a drop in violence, homicide rates remained high. Eric Holder implemented Operation Ceasefire as a response, using stop and search tactics by police. The program disproportionately impacted black neighborhoods, leading to unjustified stops, arrests, and increased imprisonment of black individuals, reinforcing issues of racial inequality in law enforcement. In conclusion, enforcement tactics in the war on drugs in Washington, D.C. increased police violence and incarceration rates, disproportionately impacting black people. Policy changes since the 1970s have not reduced crime rates and further marginalized black communities. Additional reading recommendation, Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi examines the history of racism in the U.S. and its impact on black communities. Thank you for listening to this summary. If you enjoyed this exploration, we invite you to discover other fascinating books on storyplanet.net. Don't wait any longer. A multitude of books, stories, and knowledge await you there. See you soon on storyplanet.net.